They were the gods and goddesses of the silver screen. Beautiful, untouchable, larger than life. For decades, Hollywood's golden age stars dazzled audiences with their glamour and talent. But behind the carefully crafted public images controlled by powerful studios, many of these celebrities led spiritual lives that would shock their millions of fans. Today, we're revealing the surprising, fascinating, and 100% true religious journeys of cinema's most iconic figures. These aren't tabloid rumors or internet myths. These are the documented spiritual quests of Hollywood legends that studio publicists worked hard to keep hidden from the public eye. From dramatic conversions to ancient mystical practices, get ready to see these familiar faces in a whole new light. This is 10 Unexpected Religious Beliefs of Golden Age Hollywood Stars. 10. Loretta Young, the devout Catholic with Hollywood's biggest secret. Loretta Young was known as Hollywood's most devoutly Catholic actress. She attended Mass daily, enforced modest dress codes on her film sets, and supported numerous Catholic charities. Studios even used her religious devotion as part of her publicity. But in 1935, Young faced a crisis that threatened both her career and her faith. While filming The Call of the Wild, she became pregnant during an affair with her married co-star, Clark Gable. In an era when having a child out of wedlock would destroy her career and violate her Catholic beliefs, Young made an extraordinary decision. She temporarily disappeared from public view, secretly gave birth, then placed her daughter in a Catholic orphanage. Months later, Young publicly adopted her own biological child, maintaining this fiction for decades. Her daughter Judy didn't discover the truth about her parentage until 1994. Rather than abandoning her faith after her moral lapse, Young became even more devoted to Catholicism, perhaps as a form of atonement. She later established a foundation to help unwed mothers, a cause deeply connected to her own hidden past. Young's complicated relationship with religion shows how faith could serve as both a moral framework and a source of redemption in Hollywood's golden era, even when that faith existed alongside life's biggest secrets. 9. Hedy Lamarr, the scientific mystic of Hollywood. She was promoted by MGM as the most beautiful woman in the world, but Hedy Lamarr was hiding something far more interesting than her famous face. Not only was Lamarr secretly a brilliant inventor who created technology now used in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth during World War II, she was also deeply involved in mystical practices that blended science with spirituality. According to personal journals discovered after her death, Lamarr studied Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. Despite having no Jewish heritage herself, she was fascinated by Kabbalistic numerology and incorporated these mystical principles into her scientific work. Numbers are the language of the universe, she wrote in a private diary. When I work with frequencies and patterns, I'm not just doing science, I'm touching something divine. Lamarr practiced meditation decades before it became popular in America, using visualization techniques to enhance her creative thinking and problem-solving abilities. She credited these practices with helping her develop her groundbreaking frequency hopping invention. Even more surprising, Lamarr incorporated elements of Austrian folk magic from her childhood into her daily routine, creating protective talismans for her children and performing rituals before important meetings or film premieres. As biographer Ruth Barton noted, Lamarr saw no contradiction between her scientific mind and mystical practices. For her, both were ways of accessing deeper patterns in reality. Lamarr's approach was decades ahead of its time, anticipating modern discussions about the relationship between consciousness, spirituality, and scientific creativity that wouldn't become mainstream until the 1960s and beyond. 8. Mae West, the seance-holding sex symbol. Mae West built her career on sexual innuendo and provocative one-liners, challenging the moral standards of her era, but behind her brazen public image was a woman deeply committed to spiritualism and occult practices that would have shocked her audience. From the 1920s until her death in 1980, West regularly participated in seances, attempting to communicate with the dead, particularly her mother Matilda, with whom she had been extremely close. According to her personal assistant Tim Malakowski, she never made a major career decision without trying to contact her mother first. She had a medium on retainer who would come to her apartment twice monthly. West was so committed to astrology that she refused to sign contracts or begin film projects unless the stars were favorably aligned. This drove studio executives crazy, as production schedules were sometimes determined not by budgets or star availability, but by West's astrological readings. Perhaps most surprisingly, the sexually liberated West adhered to numerology with almost religious devotion. She would change the spelling of characters' names in scripts to create more harmonious numerical values, and insisted that her home addresses and telephone numbers conform to principles she considered lucky. Studio publicists deliberately kept West's mystical interests hidden from the public, fearing they would undermine her carefully crafted image as a worldly, sexually confident woman. The contradiction is fascinating. The actress who famously invited men to "come up and see me sometime" was, in private, more interested in communicating with spirits than in her public reputation as Hollywood's most outrageous sex symbol. 7. Katharine Hepburn, the unapologetic atheist. At a time when religious skepticism was rarely expressed publicly, especially by women, Katharine Hepburn stood apart with her outspoken atheism. In a 1991 interview, Hepburn stated bluntly, "I'm an atheist, and that's it. I believe there's nothing we can know except that we should be kind to each other and do what we can for each other." This might not seem shocking today, but in the golden age of Hollywood, such candid rejection of religion was virtually unheard of, particularly from a major female star. While male actors like Brando might get away with religious skepticism, women were expected to maintain at least the appearance of traditional values. Hepburn emphasized living ethically in the present rather than focusing on an afterlife. On The Dick Cavett Show in 1973, she explained, "I don't feel the slightest interest in the next world. I think it's here, and I think anything good that you're going to do, you should do for other people here." Unlike many stars who maintained at least a veneer of religious observance to protect their image, Hepburn never pretended to hold conventional views. This authenticity aligned with her broader refusal to conform, from wearing pants when it was considered scandalous to rejecting the studio publicity machine. What makes Hepburn's stance particularly remarkable is that she didn't just privately hold these views, she openly discussed them in an era when atheism was highly stigmatized, especially for women. In doing so, Hepburn demonstrated the same courage in her spiritual life that she showed in breaking other barriers throughout her groundbreaking career. 6. Gary Cooper, the cowboy star's Catholic conversion. Gary Cooper embodied the all-American hero, the straight-shooting cowboy, the brave soldier, the man of integrity. His rugged masculinity and Protestant values seemed to perfectly represent traditional American ideals, which is why his religious transformation shocked Hollywood. Born in Montana and raised Episcopal, Cooper showed little interest in religion for most of his life. His off-screen reputation for womanizing and hard living hardly suggested spiritual devotion. But in 1959, at age 58, Cooper stunned Hollywood by converting to Catholicism. The ceremony took place at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills, with his wife Veronica and daughter Maria, both devout Catholics, by his side. This wasn't a deathbed conversion. Cooper made this decision 2 years before his cancer diagnosis after long consideration. When interviewed about his conversion, Cooper humbly admitted he was far from perfect, but expressed a genuine desire to deepen his spiritual life. What made Cooper's conversion particularly remarkable was how it contradicted his public image. The quintessential WASP American hero had embraced Catholicism at a time when anti-Catholic sentiment remained strong in American society. The individualistic cowboy had found meaning in a tradition emphasizing community and ritual. When Cooper accepted his honorary Oscar in 1961, just weeks before his death from cancer, few in the audience realized they were seeing a man who had undergone a profound spiritual transformation. His wife later revealed that his newfound Catholic faith gave him tremendous peace during his final battle with cancer, providing strength that his tough guy screen persona never had to display. 5. Spencer Tracy, Catholic Guilt and Forbidden Love. Spencer Tracy won 2 Oscars and was nominated for 7 more, building a reputation for playing decent, moral men of integrity. But off-screen, Tracy lived with a painful contradiction between his strict Catholic upbringing and his personal choices, particularly his decades-long relationship with Katharine Hepburn. Born into a devout Catholic family in 1900, Tracy was educated by Dominican nuns and Jesuit priests, experiences that instilled deep religious values. Throughout his life, he struggled with alcoholism, a battle made more painful by Catholic teachings that intensified his guilt during periods of heavy drinking. But Tracy's greatest spiritual conflict centered on his relationship with Katharine Hepburn. Despite maintaining a loving partnership with her for over 25 years, Tracy never divorced his wife, Louise Treadwell. This decision was directly influenced by his Catholic faith, as the Church forbids divorce. Tracy faced an impossible situation. He couldn't bring himself to leave Hepburn, whom he deeply loved, nor could he divorce his wife and marry Hepburn without breaking from the Church. The result was decades of living in spiritual conflict, torn between desire and doctrine. Close friends reported that Tracy occasionally expressed tremendous guilt about his relationship with Hepburn, yet couldn't resolve the contradiction. This spiritual struggle added a layer of complexity to Tracy's life that few fans would have recognized in the dignified, moral characters he often portrayed on screen. His conflict between Catholic faith and personal choices created a tension that he never fully resolved, demonstrating how religious principles can profoundly influence life decisions, even for Hollywood's elite. 4. Tina Turner. Buddhism saved the Queen of Rock. Few spiritual transformations in Hollywood are as dramatic as Tina Turner's embrace of Buddhism, a faith that she credits not just with changing her outlook, but with literally saving her life. Raised Baptist in Tennessee, Turner discovered Buddhism during the darkest period of her life, while trapped in a violently abusive marriage to Ike Turner in 1973. A friend named Valerie Bishop introduced her to Soka Gakkai Nichiren Buddhism and taught her the chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Initially skeptical, Turner began chanting mainly out of desperation. "I was in such a terrible situation that I was willing to try anything," she later recalled, but what began as a cry for help became a transformative practice that gave her the courage to take action. "The more I chanted, the stronger I felt," Turner explained. "I began to realize that I had within me the power to change my life." This spiritual awakening culminated in her courageous decision to flee from Ike in 1976 with just 36 cents in her pocket and nowhere to go. Turner's Buddhist practice became the foundation of her remarkable comeback in the 1980s. After leaving Ike, she initially struggled, cleaning houses and using food stamps to survive. Through her disciplined chanting practice, she maintained the resilience needed to rebuild her career, culminating in her phenomenal Private Dancer album that sold over 20 million copies worldwide. Unlike some celebrity religious conversions that fade with time, Turner's commitment to Buddhism deepened throughout her life. She established a disciplined practice of chanting twice daily, which she credited with keeping her grounded amid global fame. In 2020, Turner published Happiness Becomes You, sharing how Buddhist teachings helped her overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Her story demonstrates how faith can provide not just comfort, but also the practical strength needed to transform even the most desperate circumstances. 3. George Harrison, the Beatle who brought Hinduism to the West. When George Harrison picked up a sitar during the filming of the Beatles' movie Help in 1965, it seemed like just another prop. No one could have predicted that this moment would lead to one of the most significant spiritual journeys in popular culture history. Curious about this exotic instrument, Harrison sought out renowned sitar player Ravi Shankar, who became both his musical mentor and spiritual guide. Through Shankar, Harrison discovered Hinduism and Vedantic philosophy, embracing meditation, adopting a vegetarian diet, and studying ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita. Through Ravi, Harrison once said, "I want to show that I'm sincerely interested in Indian music and the whole Indian scene, the religion and philosophy. It's a search for peace of mind." Harrison's new spiritual perspective dramatically influenced his music, most notably in Within You, Without You on the Beatles' groundbreaking Sgt. Pepper album. With lyrics exploring consciousness and the illusion of material existence set to Indian instrumentation, Harrison introduced millions of young Western listeners to Eastern philosophical concepts. Unlike many celebrities who dabbled in Eastern spirituality as a passing trend, Harrison's commitment was deep and lifelong. He and Shankar organized the historic concert for Bangladesh in 1971, one of the first major benefit concerts. His hit single, My Sweet Lord, featured the Hare Krishna mantra, bringing Hindu chanting into the pop music mainstream. Harrison purchased an English estate that became a sanctuary for Hare Krishna devotees and funded the publication of spiritual literature. What makes Harrison's journey extraordinary is its cultural impact. His genuine embrace of Hinduism helped open the door for millions of Westerners to explore meditation, yoga, and Eastern philosophy, practices that have since become mainstream. Even during his final battle with cancer, Harrison remained devoted to his spiritual practices. According to close friends, he left this world chanting God's names, demonstrating the depth of his faith until the very end. 2. Elizabeth Taylor, the Jewish conversion that risked her career. With her legendary beauty and violet eyes, Elizabeth Taylor seemed to have it all: fame, fortune, and a succession of high-profile marriages. But after the tragic death of her third husband, film producer Mike Todd, in a 1958 plane crash, Taylor embarked on a spiritual journey that surprised Hollywood and threatened her global stardom. In 1959, at age 27, Taylor converted to Judaism in a ceremony at Hollywood's Temple Israel, receiving the Hebrew name Elisheba Rachel. "I felt a close identity with the Jewish people," Taylor later explained. "I have always felt Jewish in my heart." What makes Taylor's conversion remarkable is that it wasn't done for marriage, as many celebrity religious conversions are, but out of genuine spiritual connection. This was a deeply personal choice at a time when anti anti-Semitism remained prevalent in America. Taylor's commitment wasn't just words. She put her career on the line by purchasing $100,000 worth of Israeli bonds in 1959, equivalent to nearly $1 million today. This bold political statement resulted in her films being banned in several Arab countries, potentially cutting off significant international markets. Her activism extended beyond financial contributions. During the 1975 United Nations controversy, when a resolution claimed Zionism was a form of racism, Taylor publicly condemned the resolution, using her celebrity platform to take a controversial stand. Perhaps most astounding, after a plane hijacking in Entebbe, Uganda in 1976, Taylor reportedly offered to exchange herself for Jewish hostages, an extraordinary gesture that, while not accepted, demonstrated the depth of her commitment. Even after her divorce from Jewish singer Eddie Fisher in 1964, Taylor maintained her Jewish identity for the rest of her life. Her conversion was not a temporary phase, but a lifelong spiritual commitment that revealed dimensions of her character far deeper than her glamorous public image suggested. 1. Sammy Davis Jr., the conversion that defied double discrimination. The most remarkable religious transformation in Hollywood history belongs to Sammy Davis Jr., whose conversion to Judaism required extraordinary courage in the face of racism and anti-Semitism. The catalyst came on November 19, 1954, when a horrific car accident nearly killed Davis and cost him his left eye. During his hospital recovery, his friend comedian Eddie Cantor introduced him to Judaism, discussing parallels between Jewish history and the African American experience. As Davis studied Jewish traditions, he discovered profound connections between the struggles of Jewish people throughout history and his own experiences with discrimination. I found great similarities between my life situation and the long historical situation of the Jews, Davis later explained. After years of serious study, he officially converted to Judaism in 1961, taking the Hebrew name Moshe ben Dovid, Moses, son of David. This decision was particularly remarkable given the social climate of America in the early 1960s. As an African American entertainer, Davis already faced significant racial discrimination. By converting to Judaism, he essentially chose to identify with another group that faced widespread prejudice during that era, making himself a target of both racism and anti-Semitism simultaneously. When asked why he converted, Davis explained, "I wanted a faith that a man could really feel emotionally. I became a Jew because I was ready and willing to understand the plight of a people who fought for thousands of years for a homeland." This wasn't a publicity stunt. Davis remained devoted to Judaism throughout his life, supporting Israeli causes financially and performing for Israeli troops during periods of conflict. When asked why he didn't choose a less controversial faith, Davis reportedly answered, "Judaism wasn't about choosing the easiest path. It was about choosing the right path for me." In an era when civil rights struggles were just gaining momentum, Davis's willingness to embrace a minority faith publicly demonstrated a spiritual courage that went beyond his entertaining persona. His conversion stands as a powerful testament to following one's spiritual truth, regardless of social consequences. The spiritual journeys of these Golden Age stars reveal a side of Hollywood history rarely explored. Beyond the glamour and carefully crafted public images existed men and women engaged in profound searches for meaning and authentic faith. What makes these stories particularly significant is their context. During this era, powerful studios controlled nearly every aspect of celebrities' public lives. Religious beliefs were considered especially sensitive, potentially alienating to audiences or incompatible with the carefully manufactured images studios wanted to project. Yet in private, many stars maintained rich spiritual lives that sometimes contradicted their public personas. The sex symbol who sought mystical knowledge, the all-American hero who embraced Catholicism, the sophisticated star who practiced Eastern meditation far from the cameras. These authentic spiritual narratives add humanity to figures often flattened into simple archetypes by the publicity machine. They remind us that behind the characters that still enchant us on classic films were complex individuals grappling with questions of meaning, purpose, and transcendence. In the end, perhaps that's the most powerful revelation, that even for those who reached the heights of fame and fortune during Hollywood's most glamorous era, the spiritual journey remained as essential and challenging as it is for all of us. Beyond the spotlight and behind the silver screen, the search for meaning continued. If you enjoyed this look at Hollywood's hidden spiritual side, hit subscribe and the notification bell to make sure you never miss our upcoming videos on film history's greatest untold stories. Let us know in the comments which celebrity's spiritual journey surprised you the most, and share this video with anyone who loves discovering the real people behind Hollywood legends. Thanks for watching.